Hey guys, it's Jerry with Two Fish On, and today I'm going to go over the different kinds of reels that you can use for fishing. First, this is what is referred to as a spincast reel. This is the one that a lot of kids grow up fishing. I grew up fishing with this one. It's the button, you press the button and it's really easy to cast. I don't really use these too much in the ocean, but this one I actually have. As you can see, it's really rusty because I didn't take care of it when I did, but I know companies like Shakespeare do make bigger spincast combos, like a spincast reel and a rod with line and a few lures that you can use in the ocean, which are actually really good for little kids if they don't know how to cast the different kinds of reels I'm going to go over. This one is really easy to cast. Click the button, throw it out there. It's really easy. Most fish you're going to catch with this are freshwater applications, just because this is a smaller one. But like I said, there are the ones that are for saltwater, and those I do recommend for any tourists coming down and they're going to be fishing off a pier or a bridge. Those are good combos because they're really simple to use, and they're pretty cheap combos too. Next, I'm going to go over a little bit more of an intermediate reel. This is referred to as a baitcaster reel, and these most of the time are going to be used for fishing for largemouth bass and smallmouth bass in freshwater. I know guys in Texas and Louisiana are starting to use these more and more in the saltwater, but if you're a tourist coming down and you have this, I highly recommend not bringing it, just because they are very difficult to clean out if you're trying to rinse it out with fresh water and keep it nice. And most bait casters are pretty expensive, and if you do bring it into the salt water and you don't keep it nice, then you're gonna ruin your reel and it's not gonna be as good as it was before you took it in the salt. Also, these are not good for beginners because they're very difficult to cast. They get what is called a bird's nest or a backlash, same term, or same thing for what happens if you, because when you click this button to cast it like that and you cast your line out, the spool will spin really quickly, and if you don't keep pressure or light amount of pressure on the spool, it'll go really quickly and your line will come off the spool really quickly and get in a big knot, and that is not good. That is what is called a backlash or a bird's nest. And it's called a bird's nest because if you get a really bad one, it looks like a bird's nest. But baitcaster, I'd really just say keep in the freshwater, and if you're a beginner, unless you're gonna get more into fishing, I really don't recommend this just because of how difficult it is to use. If you know how to use it though, it is a great reel for different applications. Next reel is what I do recommend everybody use other than the spincast. This is what is referred to as a spinning reel. These are not as hard to cast, but they do have a little bit of learning to do. This is where you flip the bail. That is called the bail. You flip it over, and this is very versatile. Many companies make these in many different sizes. You can get a littler one and use it in freshwater. You can get a big one and use it in the saltwater for sharks and tarpon and bigger fish. Or this is about a medium-sized one, which is good for both applications. I use this mostly just for redfish and snook. Also, if you're going to be in a kayak or a boat and you are fishing docks, this is the easiest to skip a lure underneath of too. It's the easiest to cast just because it won't get a backlash like a bait caster. You will get into these things called wind knots, but that's really just when it's windy. Most of the time, you should have no problem with any knots or backlashes with these. They're pretty easy to cast, good for all varieties of fish and applications. So these are the ones I recommend the most, along with these. These spinning reels are better than the spincast reel though, because these can cover more applications like fishing with lures than the spincast, because this one just doesn't handle fishing with lures as well. This is more of like a, you cast it out there and let it sit. This can do the same thing and also be used for lures. So most versatile, most recommended spinning reel. Also, final note on this guy, it is the easiest to clean out of all of these. That is a pretty concealed reel. Yes, that silver thing will screw off and you can rinse it off with fresh water. This one is definitely the most tricky to clean out, which is why I also don't want you guys to come ruin your nice bait casters in the salt water, because they are very tricky to clean out with fresh water to keep it from getting corroded. But these guys are pretty open reels. I don't know if you can see it there, but that crack right there will lead all the way down into the skeleton of this reel, and you can get fresh water all throughout this and really keep your gear nice. So spinning reel is the most recommended. Said that like 5 times, but it is. Finally, we're gonna go over the big boy. This is referred to as a conventional reel. If you go out on any party boat or deep sea fishing charter, something along the lines of this is what you're going to be getting. This is this kind of thing you're going to be using if you're deep dropping in the ocean for grouper, snapper, all your bigger fish. This, you're going to have a really big rod, really big line, really big weight to get down to the bottom. Everything about this is big. It's really heavy, and this one you probably won't be using off of bridges or piers unless you're a little bit more experienced and are going for sharks or grouper off of piers or bridges. But this is a nicer version of the kind of stuff you're going to be getting on party boats. So this also does have the same problem as bait casters. This you cannot really cast too well, but to drop it down, you're just going to put that lever like that, and this spool flows or spins freely. And as you can see, kind of already just made a backlash out of that from just free letting it spin. So you're going to have to keep your thumb on this to keep a little pressure, or else you're going to get a backlash as well. Now, there are also some other honorable mentions. There are trolling reels, which are basically these. You can use these for trolling if you want to, but trolling reels sometimes have a line counter, which will count how many lines of or how many yards of line you let out of your reel, and that just helps you when you're trolling to know how far behind the boat your lure is. But trolling reels, I don't know. I'd really stick with the spinning, just because that's mostly what you're going to need if you're land-based fishing off of bridges and piers and docks. But last one is fly reels. Fly fishing is actually one of my favorite ways to fish, and if you have a fly reel or fly rod, you'll know the entire weight system, and that a 4 weight is for lighter fish and a 12 weight is for bigger fish. But really, unless you know what you're doing with a fly fishing rod, or you're out on a charter, like a private charter in the Keys or something, going for bonefish, and the captain teaches you how to use it, I wouldn't bring it down, just because fly fishing off of bridges and piers isn't going to be as good as fishing with just a spinning reel, because you can cast this the furthest, catch a more variety of fish with this, and use more variety of baits. So the winner of saltwater fishing, if you had to have one reel, I'd definitely go with a spinning reel. Any brand is good. Depending on what you're going after, the sizes will vary. The bigger the number is normally the bigger the reel. This is a 40 size reel, which is about mid-size. So this you can use for most of the stuff you're going to be going after by bridges and piers. So I definitely recommend something around a 40 or 4,000 size reel, just because some different companies make it 40, some different companies make it a 4,000. But this reel is the winner for if you had to have one reel. So spinning, spincast, conventional, and baitcast. Hopefully you're not lost. It's pretty technical, but as long as you kind of got the gist of it, that's what you need. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button down below. If you haven't already, click a thumbs up and show us some support. We'll catch you on the next episode of Two Fish On.